What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bass. In today's video, I'm talking about 3 bass fishing techniques, 3 bass fishing rigs that are changing bass fishing. Over the last couple of years, there has been a few techniques that are taking over bass fishing, right? We're talking about mid-strolling or hover strolling or bottom strolling or damiki rigging or mooching. You know, there's several different names for it, but we're also talking about the free rig and then the hover strolling technique, right? 3 different techniques: mid-strolling, hover strolling, free rigging, that you should learn how to rig and how to throw. Now, in the past, during the holiday buyer's guides and even the spring buyer's guides, we did a whole in-depth buyer's guide on the strolling technique itself. So I will link that down below in the video description. But for those of you guys that missed that video, today we're going to talk about these different techniques. We're going to kind of cover how to rig them, and then more importantly, why they work, and why you, if you haven't learned to throw them or rig them already, why you should add that to your arsenal, because these are 3 highly effective techniques. Several tournaments, I would say the majority of the tournaments in the last probably 12 months or so, give or take a few, have been dominated by these techniques, either hover strolling or mid strolling, or not as much so, but free rigging. But I love free rigging, and right now is like one of my favorite times to throw that setup. So we're going to talk about that too. You know, right now it's springtime, right? Today we actually have I'm wireless mic'd up today. We have 20 to 25 mile an hour winds. You know, it was white capping out here earlier, and anytime I'm getting out on the boat, especially in the springtime, right, my wheels are spinning. You know, what do I rig? Well, there goes one of the baits I was going to talk about. Did I mention that it is windy today? Let me go ahead and move these baits down here. Anytime I'm preparing to go fishing or thinking about fishing, I'm always like thinking, you know, should I be throwing a glide bait? Should I be throwing top water? Should I be the first guy throwing top water in the springtime? Should I be Nico rigging, right? I'm always playing out the different techniques and what I want to actually fish, right? Do I want to be worming, or do I want to be throwing reaction baits? So I'm always thinking about rigging, and these techniques basically have lived in my boat or with me the last year or so, because they just, like I said, they've taken over, especially competitive bass fishing, tournament fishing, the last year or so. And 1, I want to get better at some of them, and 2, I have a ton of confidence in them, and so I'm always trying to learn and get better. So when I'm rigging rods, I like to do it in bulk, but today I got those 3 techniques for you. Okay, so why do these work right now? So springtime, talked about it. We got that early spring storm blowing through. Gonna have several nice days here in a row after today, but we got that storm blowing out, so we have a lot of wind and a lot of intermittent rain. So hopefully we can get through this before we get soaked. But these fish are moving shallow, right? They want to do their thing. They want to get up and do the spawn. So pretty much wherever you are in the country, unless you're in the extreme south or extreme north, you're going to have fish kind of in that pre-spawn, spawn phase, right? They're coming shallow. And this time of the year, you know, we've talked about moving baits, because you want to cover water and find those active fish. But if you don't land on those fish, or if you don't find that active school, it's really easy to not catch them, right? So Matt did a video about this just a couple weeks ago, about, you know, some different tips and things, and, you know, mistakes that a lot of guys make this time of the year. But ooh, got things flying all over the place. But these fish are coming shallow, and if you have visible targets, that's where I really love to throw this guy. We're gonna start off talking about the free rig, and then we'll go kind of more in depth with the mid stroll, because that's probably the biggest category in today's video. So the free rig, you guys, I've done videos in the past on this guy, but the free rig, it is just that. It is a free rig. You have your line tied to a hook and a bait, and you have a drop shot weight right there. See that? Freely moving, okay? Now, I get this question a lot. You know, what's the difference between a free rig and just a weightless or an unpegged Texas rig? And my answer to that, one, when you pull tight or taut to that bait, it allows this to free swing, whereas the Texas rig weight is kind of nose down, right? So if you're fishing in and around brush piles, that sort of thing, that really helps. And then also, when you drop your rod tip and this weight comes crashing down, it moves a lot freer and quicker and smoother than the Texas rig weight, right? It's just the opening that drop shot weight has, that line tie on there. This isn't the wedge style, this is the tie-on style. When you run that line through there, it is extremely free. So these fish are coming shallow. So when I'm fishing the backs of pockets, secondary points, working into the backs of pockets where these spawning fish are going to, I'm looking for every visible above surface piece of cover. And then with my 360, if you guys have 360, it's an amazing tool. I can also see 360 degrees around the boat. So as I go shallow, I can see there's a stump out here, maybe a rock pile here, but I'm looking for every visible, whether it's subsurface or above the surface. With my eyes, I'm looking for every visible piece of cover, because that's what those fish are going to use. That's what they're going to transition to. And having the free rig, like I said, so much confidence in the last couple years, flipping and pitching and casting to those isolated pieces of cover, right? That weight goes down to the bottom. Now this guy slowly kind of swims and glides down to the bottom. So it's a lot like flipping and pitching like a jig or a Texas rig, a peg Texas rig, but it allows that bait to kind of free float down to the bottom. So you get kind of that weightless stick bait kind of action or drawing power. You know, it kind of entices those fish to bite when they don't want to eat that heavy flipping or pitching jig, right? So that free rig, again, we've done videos in the past explaining how to rig all these and how to fish them, okay? Basically, you take your line, you run your weight through, then you tie on your favorite worm hook. That's actually, that's a EWG, that's a gummy. And then you take your favorite soft plastic. I like a bait that has a wide body or a flat bottom, really cups that water and glides down. But we will link a video or two on each of these techniques down below in the video description, so you can go watch the in-depth versions of those videos. But a free rig, whether it's on a bait caster or a spinning rod, a free rig is an awesome technique to be throwing right now. And again, this one's, like I said, this one's kind of the older of the three. You know, that one, the free rig's kind of the last few years, I'd say. But again, this is 6 and 7 pound line, little 3/16 ounce drop shot weight. And then that is the X Zone. That's this guy right here, the Adrenaline Craw 3.5. You guys have heard me rave about this bait in the past. This bait, with that weight, with that little 3/16 ounce weight, it goes, that bait, that weight goes straight to the bottom, and that bait just kind of kicks. This has some kicker paddles on it, and it kind of swims down. And when you pull tight on it and hop it up, it comes tight up through the cover, then you drop, and then it just kind of swims down. This is an amazing bait that you can fish fairly fast, and you can fish it in and through that shallow cover, which is where those fish are gonna go. So if you are new to or haven't heard of the free rig, definitely check out the links down below. And then some of my favorite baits. Talked about that guy, right? That is almost lost some rods over the side. Specifically, that green pumpkin blue flake, that has caught more fish, more big fish for me on the free rig than any other bait I've thrown in the last year or so. So that guy right there, of course, everything got all messed up. The bellows gill or the bellows shad comes in several sizes. That's the 2.8 size. This guy right here is the 3.8 size. This is an awesome profile if you're around fisheries that are fishing panfish or threadfin shad. That's an awesome profile. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put these rods down here. This wind is ridiculous. I know you guys probably can't hear it because I'm mic'd up, but it is blowing stuff all over the place. So we talked about the adrenaline craw, we talked about the bellows gill. Those are two of my favorites, but realistically, you could take your whatever favorite soft plastic and rig it. I just like to have something with a flat bottom or more of a wider profile to really cup that water and it slows that fall and allows those baits to glide, and that's what's really key about the free rig. So that was the free rig. Now let's talk about mid strolling, because that I was actually talking to a buddy today. And he's like, mid strolling, what is that? And I described it to him. He's like, oh, damiki rigging. Yes, exactly right. This is not a new technique. The damiki rig, or a style or version of the damiki rig, has been around for several years. You know, all of these techniques can be fished without forward-facing sonar, without any electronics at all. These apply to bank fishermen. They apply to guys in 10 boats and float tubes. But it's funny because with the boom of the whole forward-facing sonar technology, it kind of took certain techniques and gave them a shot in the arm. And that damiki rig, I mean, I remember 8, 10, 12 years ago, I mean, seems like forever ago, taking a damiki, they actually have their damiki head and vertically fishing it on the 2D sonar, right? Video game fishing, that's where it came from. You see those arches down there on 2D sonar below the boat, and you drop, this is the most distracting video I think I've ever had to do. And you drop that bait down there, and you sit there and shake it above its head, that fish's head, and it comes up and eats it, right? That was the damiki rig. That is the damiki rig. But now you hear about like moping and mid-strolling or hover strolling. In my opinion, it's all a version of the damiki rig, but with the boom of forward-facing sonar, now you're seeing these guys casting out, they're finding that fish or their target, whatever it may be, they're casting out and they're shaking that rod tip, right? Shaking that rod tip as they're slowly reeling this bait back. And that is just, it's a really cool technique that these fish really haven't seen. You know, the damiki rig, you're kind of hanging it on, you know, just vertically fishing it or letting it fall along bluff walls. This, you're actually shaking the rod tip and you're slowly reeling as that bait's coming towards you. That thing's going side to side. And that's what makes this technique so special and why I wanted to talk to you about it, because it seems like every bait manufacturer and every hook company or whatever is putting a version of a bait or a hook out on the market. And it's been fun to watch and fun to fish. But this guy right here, that is a 3.5 electric shad spunk shad, and that is the Owner range roller. This is a really cool hook. You can see the weight is all the way up there on the line tie, and it makes this head extremely unstable. Now, I said this, at least I think I said it, in the spring buyer's guide about the strolling stuff, is like, why does this work so well? You know, for a year, years or a decade, that Kitech 2.8, that was like my fail-safe bait. If I showed up to a fishery and I needed a piece to the puzzle, I needed to catch a fish, you throw a 2.8 Kitech out there on a guppy head, and if there's a fish around, you're gonna catch it, right? That it shows you there's fish in the area. Well, in this last couple years, there's been several times where I'll fish through an area, I'll pick up that 2.8 and not get bit, and then I'll pick up this guy and I'll catch him. You know, why does that work? Why does that make sense? And what we've kind of talked about and believe is, these fish, they get keyed in on actions of baits, right? That's why certain times of the year, Kitech Easy Shiner is going to work better than the Swing Impact Fat. Completely different tail kick. Or the X-Zone Swammer. You guys have heard us talk about that bait for a long time now. It has a different, more aggressive kick than the Kitech. So as that water warms up, as water cools down, those fish are going to adjust, and you have to adjust with them with the certain baits. So getting back to that 2.8 Kitech, I think fish have become accustomed to that tail kick, whereas something like this doesn't have a tail kick at all. But when you're doing that shaking motion, you're getting that real side-to-side body roll. And if you watch bait fish underwater, or you see bait fish in the water, they don't have a real wide, real aggressive, quick tail kick. They have a real kind of tight kick or a shimmy to it. If they're trying to get away, then they kick real tight and real fast and they go. But a lot of times they're just down there flashing. They're sitting there. You'll see them flash on their sides. So having a bait designed to go, when you shake it, to go side to side to side, has that real heavy body roll, but with very little tail kick. I think that's why it works so well. I don't know, could be completely wrong, but that's what it seems like to me. And that's why it's extremely important. I know there's a lot of companies bringing stuff to the market, but it's extremely important, one, to fish a bait when you're mid-strolling or hover strolling or bottom strolling. That's just basically hover strolling, mid-strolling, bottom strolling, just kind of the depth that you're doing it in. But it's really important, two things. One, that you have a head that, one, gets the bait going side to side, or two, shows the bait going side to side. Something with a two-tone paint job, and a bait that has a two-tone paint job, right? This electric shad has two colors right there, so you can really tell when this bait is going side to side to side, and those fish can see it. It's a non-intrusive bait. It's fairly small. You can fish bigger ones if you want. We could talk about that too. But it's a technique that works extremely well. So again, favorite baits for this, I just mentioned that guppy head. So that was the range roller that I showed you. There's that guppy head, that two-tone. And again, when this bait is going side to side, that's the action it's doing. It's not doing any tail kick, but you can see when it goes side to side, the bait flashes and that head flashes. And you can see it when you do it next to the boat or close to the shoreline. You see this bait just going side to side, and it's not having that big tail kick. Even with a 4.5 spunk shad, hardly any tail kick, but a lot of body roll. And that is what is so special about this technique and why you should be throwing it. Again, this technique, you can, yes, you can use it with forward-facing sonar, but I have caught so many fish, not even having any of my units turned on, just fishing it in the areas that I would normally fish a 2.8 or a 3.3, a 3.8 Kitech, and getting bit on this guy right here. I don't know if you guys can hear this stuff. I doubt it, but this wind, I mean, it might be blowing 25 sustained, 30 sustained, I don't know. But anyways, the mid-strolling technique, you throw it out there and you kind of work it back on taut line, and you're just shake, getting that bait shake side to side to side to side as you're just slowly reeling and covering water. So we talked about that. Let's talk about some heads real quick. I talked about those range rollers. You can see the weight, how it's up there on the head of, almost close to the eye of the hook. That's what makes that thing top heavy and really easy to go side to side. That is extremely important. And then again, that guppy head is an awesome, where did it go? Again, stuff's blowing around all over the place. That guppy head is awesome if you want to throw a larger profile. Okay, that's a 1/4 ounce and a 3/0 hook. But again, a real side to side action is key. Okay, and I will link these products down below in the video description. Some awesome baits besides the spunk shad. Just kind of talk about them real quick because I know they blew all over the place. So we've talked about the spunk shad, right? Again, really important to have two-tone or at least something in the bait, some color in the bait that shows that side-to-side action. The Yamamoto scope shad, again, electric shad is a killer color. And this guy right here, this is the Duo Realis Finder shad. Okay, I want to show you guys this guy real quick. This is a cool little bait. Comes in some cool colors, but it has a little cup on the tail section, so it just gives a little subtle action. Can you guys see that? Okay, again, it's a slender bait, so it's going to get that real. It gets that real side-to-side kick really easy, and then has that little cupped tail section to add a little bit of movement. But that Finder shad is an awesome bait as well. Again, you can play around with sizes of baits, you know, 3.8, 3.5, 4.5 inch baits, totally up to you. It all depends on the size of the bait fish that you're around, right? So if you can see the shad, maybe you're around threadfin shad or maybe you're around gizzard shad and you got to go something big like a 5.5 or something even bigger, but it all works, okay? And then bottom strolling, we kind of talked about, I'm going to cover hover rig here shortly, but mid strolling and then bottom strolling, kind of the same thing, just kind of closer to bottom, just kind of banging down there just off bottom, doing the same thing, just has to do with the depth. But these fish are coming shallow in spring, so if you find that area close to that deep water access, right? Maybe there's a flat and there's a deep water access, there's a break right there. Those fish are going to stage right there, especially the bigger females. The males go up first, then the females will stage. They'll go up a little bit after the males, but that fish in that little deeper area, that break down there, that mid strolling or bottom strolling technique is a phenomenal way to catch them. So if you guys aren't catching them on swim baits, you aren't catching them on jigs or whatever, try that technique, okay? So we talked about those baits. Again, I apologize for the stuff going everywhere. I'm not sure what's blown off of the boat. I can only see out of my peripheral the things I've seen, but it's been a fun one today. All right, last but not least, let's talk about hover strolling or hover rigging. This is a technique that comes into play for me right now. It's probably the most finessey of all the techniques, okay? It is that's 4-pound line, okay? That is a 4-inch Senko in shad color, okay? It is the most finessey technique out of all of these. Light line, light tip, light rod, light head. Now, what makes this technique so special, and again, we're not talking about bed fishing, but sight fishing. As we come up shallow in the spring, these fish are coming up shallow. A lot of times, if you're fishing around docks, you're fishing around laydowns, you will see those fish suspended up shallow, right? They're just below the surface. They might even be over 15 or 20 feet of water, but they're up, they're just 2, 3, 4 feet below the surface, just sunning themselves, getting ready to do the spawn. This is where the hover rigging or the hover rig really shines. Now, we talked about this in that video as well. This is a technique that we've been doing for a long time, over a decade. It's not a newer technique, but it has kind of resurfaced with the with the mid strolling kind of taken over. Everybody's kind of looking at these different techniques. But this is a technique that is ultra finessey and very, very special. Okay, so when you rig this correctly, this Senko no longer does this and falls. Now it does this slow, wide death glide, right? That dying bait fish. Have you ever seen a dead or a dying bait fish kind of just flickering and then just slowly disappear out of sight as it sinks towards the bottom? That's what makes this technique so special. So if you find yourself with seeing these fish up shallow, under docks, under laydowns, whatever, you take this guy right here and you skip it up there and you let it have, you have a bow in your line and let that thing kind of do its spiral, you will get more bites, especially on those fish that you're seeing. It's just, I think my boat's gonna blow away. It's just one of those techniques that a lot of guys don't do because it takes patience, right? You can't fish fast. This is where you're fishing visible fish or visible structure, vertical structure. Those fish might be suspended 8-10 feet down on a tree, right, in 30 foot. You throw this thing out there and then let that thing do its thing and do that death spiral all the way down, doop. Now you're fighting those fish on 4, 5, 6 pound test, but you will get bites that you couldn't have got any other way. So how do we rig this thing? Basically 2 ways to rig it. There are several hover rig hooks on the market. Basically, they probably blew away, not gonna lie. Basically, let me see if I can grab another one real quick. What's cool about this technique, I'm gonna have to, it's like a yard sale out here. Stuff flying all over the parking lot. Oh, there's a pack of hooks down there. A pack of baits over there, another pack. So basically, you have weight on a 90-degree jig hook, and you take your favorite soft plastic. I really like these RoboWorm Sculpins. Okay, RoboWorm Sculpin, Yamamoto 4-inch Senko. Those are 2 of my favorite. The missile baits, this guy right here, the Magic Worm, the 4-inch. Let's go ahead and rig that one for you. So the key with this, and again, why does this work? These fish are moving up to that shallow cover. You might see them, a lot of them you will see. You know, I've told this story before, but I remember, several times pulling up to a dock line and seeing fish suspended up underneath the dock and like just going through every boat or every bait in my boat trying to catch them, and nothing would catch them until I started doing this. So basically you take your soft plastic and that hover rig hook, you go about 1/8 of an inch behind the head. You don't go in the top of the head, you go behind the head, okay? Come all the way down. See how that's still right there? And then you pull this into and over. So now your bait is like that, okay? So you have the weight farther down the head of the bait. And that's what gets that bait to kind of plane out and then do that death spiral, right? So that right there, that's that 4-inch Magic Worm. With that's a 1/8 ounce, actually that's a 1/16 ounce head. I don't know where the other heads went that I was gonna show you, but I will link them down below. But the other way to rig it is you take your favorite 90-degree hook. Where'd those Senkos go? Let me just rig this one for you. So same deal. Go in, 1/8 of an inch back of the head. Rig it all the way down, come out, right, just like that. Pop it in, okay? Now this is a larger hook so you guys can see, but you guys can see how that looks. And then you take your favorite nail weight. I really like the reins that go all the way down to 1/96 of an ounce. You can get super light, super finessey. And then you can stick this in the face or the head of the bait, okay? That's the other way to rig that. But the hover rig, again, it's something we've been doing for a decade or longer, and we're sight fishing, we're fishing around docks. It's an ultra finessey technique. So between the mid-stroll, right, you're fishing the deeper water, you're fishing the visible cover, maybe suspended down, or maybe you're flipping with the free rig, right? Or ultra finessey, you're going with the hover rig. These are techniques that if you haven't played around with, you should definitely spend a day or two trying to learn them, because they will come into play this time of the year. Well, they're gonna come into play a lot of the time of the year, but especially right now as we're going shallow and those fish are getting, you know, these fish are moving up. A lot of them are coming out of deep water, and they're finicky. They're ultra sensitive to pressure, sounds, boat traffic, all that stuff. So when you can downsize and give them a finessey, quiet presentation, you know, sometimes it just works better than those real loud, fast-moving reaction baits. But guys, that is basically the gist of those 3 rigs. If you haven't tried out either of those rigs, I highly recommend that you do. Again, this has been kind of a yard sale of a video. We got stuff blowing all over the place, stuff blowing behind the boat. It's almost laughable at this, but I'm gonna go round up this stuff. But guys, these fish are coming shallow. Now is a great time. It's one of my favorite, it's probably my favorite time of the year to get out on the water. You know, everything's kind of thawed out, things are getting warm, the fish are ready to do their thing, and the fish are aggressive, right? They're moving up. So if you find these fish that are just a little bit deeper and you need to throw something a little bit different than that 2.8 Kitech or that 3.8 Kitech, try the mid-strolling technique. It's again, it works extremely well. And then again, you can fish it closer to bottom down there in the little deeper depths if you need to. And if your guy likes a flip and pitch, that free rig is a must, guys. You could take your favorite flip and punch and hook and take your beaver or your D-bomb, your favorite flipping and pitching baits, punching baits, and free rig it. You get a lot, you get that same profile, but you get a little bit different action, and those fish really seem to like that. And then the hover rigging, guys. The hover rig, if you're a guy that finds yourself around a lot of visible fish, not bed fish, but visible fish, up cruising shallows, kind of getting ready for that pre-spawn time, and you need a bait that can catch them when others won't, that hover rig is magical. Again, the baits, I like that 4-inch Senko is one of my favorites, the Sculpin by Robo Worm, and then that 4-inch Magic Worm by Missile Baits are all great options. Guys, I apologize for the wind. I apologize. It has just been, it's been one of those days, right? It's just been extremely windy, rainy, but it's the best time to rig. I'm gonna go clean up this stuff in the parking lot. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down below in the comment section. I will try to get to those as soon as possible. But guys, as always, we appreciate the support. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you guys on the next video.